Hello?
Yeah.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this session on the Dubai Declaration on ECD. In February 2019, the Dubai Declaration on Early Childhood Development was jointly announced at the World Government Summit, and it was a partnership between Dubai Cares, Unicef, and Mosaic. The premise of the Dubai Declaration centered around rallying collective action and commitments from governments, international organizations, civil society, and the private sector. Moreover, the declaration identified a number of key recommendations that call for investing in services that give young children the best start in life, expanding access to effective ECD services in homes, schools, communities, and health facilities, development of family-friendly policies at the national level, investing in research and data collection of essential indicators for tracking progress, and coordinating efforts and providing dedicated leadership for ECD programs and initiatives. This session will shed a spotlight on the declaration and the need for collective action to take it forward. With us on the panel are His Excellency Dr. Tariq Al-Gurg, Chief Executive Officer and Vice Chairman of Dubai Cares, Mr. Ted Shayban, UNICEF Regional Director for the Middle East and North Africa, Dr. Ido, Director of Unesco International Bureau of Education based in Geneva, and Her Excellency Lubna Shamsi, Acting Executive Director at Emirates Schools Establishment. Please join me in welcoming our panelists. Your Excellency, Dr. Tariq, let me start with you, please, and if you could help us with a declaration on early childhood development, and what advice would you have for others who want to set off in a similar direction?
Well, look, I have to go back in history. When we took a decision, so we were established in 2009, and when we took a decision to go towards early childhood development, that was around 2011, 2012. That's when we championed it. We had a lot of programs. I remember the Bosnian program properly. That was very, it was very unique because it was for children with special needs. And not only it was the system that we funded with the government there, with UNICEF as well, it was different because you had to build centers for children with special needs. You had to train trainers who can train teachers to provide education to children with special needs. It was totally different than many other stuff. We did Tanzania, we did other countries, we did Pakistan, I remember. So we realized that there's a huge gap in the world. There's no one at that time who was championing early childhood development globally. I mean, we started early childhood education, which was the preschooling phase, but sooner later we moved towards early childhood development, where we put the health component, the care component, training parents. That's what we did in Peru as well. Most developing countries, rural areas, don't know about vaccinations and the vaccination cycles and how many times they have to do it. A lot of communities around the world don't understand that a child has a brain, and it's the brain that thinks. It's not the child who thinks. It's not the heart or the child. There's a brain which does the thinking, and the more you nourish that brain, the bigger it develops, and then that's how the child becomes a toddler, an adult, and a man and a woman. And then what happened, Nada, was, and we thought we were alone, to be honest with you, and you were with us, actually. And in 2015, I remember I was at the UN General Assembly in New York, and then UNICEF championing early childhood development. I said, finally, someone is coming on board. I'm putting full forces with UNICEF to do whatever I can. Again, I'm a small entity towards what's happening globally in terms of global funding and bilateral funding and global mechanisms such as GPE or the World Bank and many others, and the UN system. But you know, sometimes it takes those small organizations to help, to nudge the big organizations to go into the right path, because we deal with the grassroots. The bigger organizations, not all of them have time. They will depend on their regional offices in those countries. They would have their own staff. They would deal with governments. But as dealing with grassroots, not a lot of them do that. And then, what is the equation, or what is the link between early childhood development and youth? We have some people here I can see, and VVOB is here. They do youth empowerment, and people say, why are youth people here? It's very simple. Without the proper early learning, there is no quality youth in the future. That's why they're linked. I'm not afraid of the K-12 system. Each country will develop their own. Some will be normal, some will be a bit weak, some will be stronger. They will reach to good levels, hopefully, and we believe they would do. But what happens before that determines the fate of those youth. And that's why when Unicef championed early childhood development in 2015, both of us didn't wait, Nada, and we said we have to do something. And we spoke to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation in the UAE. Unicef actually made that push, and we said we have to come out with a declaration, and we launched it in 2019, actually. We started talking in 17. We launched it 2019, February, at the World Government Summit. We had a huge high-level panel. Executive Director Henrietta Fore was there. The OECD Director General was also there. And we spoke about the importance, and we did that linkage. So this is why we wanted to have a global declaration, so we can relate all our efforts towards, and get other players rallying all of them towards a cause that at least exists.
Thank you, Dr. Tariq. That transitions us nicely over to Mr. Shayban, who can tell us a little bit more about how UNICEF championed that process and the progress to date. So allow me to ask you, from UNICEF's experience, what difference has the Dubai Declaration made to support UNICEF's work and the ECD field more broadly?
And let me first say that I would like to appreciate the role that Dubai Cares played in making the Dubai Declaration a reality. Now, a declaration is only valuable if you actually put it into practice. And from a UNICEF standpoint, that has served as a catalyst to do further investments. In about 45 of the countries where we worked, it served as an accelerator. So to kind of work with government to try to invest more in early childhood development. And specifically, I can cite two examples in Argentina and in El Salvador, where working with the Inter-American Development Bank and the World Bank, there was an agreement to increase budget allocation from government towards ECD services. Second, in a number of countries, and working in this case with the World Health Organization and the World Bank, we rolled out the nurturing care framework, because the ECD declaration is multisectorial. It's about early childhood education, but it's also about the different aspects of services that can support parents and communities to support their early child. And the nurturing care declaration, the nurturing care framework is a way to bring the best of the health system in support of families. So how can health workers in other part of the health system support parenting, support early childhood development? Third, UNICEF committed itself to invest 10% of its throughput related to education on early childhood education. And the last thing we've done is we came up with a composite ECD index to be able to measure progress in each of the countries that is taking this on as a priority in order to move things forward. As Tariq has said, the science is clear. If you invest in the first 1,000 days and you complete that with a focus on early childhood education, you've given the child the best start in life. And between that window and the window of plasticity that is there when you go through adolescence, those are the two big opportunities we have to give each child the opportunity to fulfill their best potential, which is why UNICEF committed to this declaration, which is why UNICEF is doing everything it can to turn it from a declaration into an actualization.
Thank you, Mr. Sheikha. So, if I can go over to Dr. Ido and talk a little bit more about global efforts in support of early childhood development, and I know that we've worked together in supporting early childhood care and education system strengthening in a number of countries. Allow me to ask you, what are some of the ways UNESCO IBE is contributing to the ECD field, and how do you see yourselves aligning with the Dubai Declaration?
Thank you very much. I would like to start by thanking my friend, the CEO of Dubai Care, for the very active and very fruitful partnership that Dubai Cares has been having with the IBE. For those who do not know, IBE is one of the UNESCO specialized institutes. We are specialized in quality of education, namely curriculum issues. You can understand the importance of IBE because everything has to do with curriculum to make it happen. And I would like to say that we are committed to, we have been working with Dubai Care on a number of issues. I will come back to them later. But in terms of how IBE is going to contribute, I would like to start by saying that in spite of all the evidences, we still have in developing countries less than 3% of the education budget that is given to early childhood. We know that, whereas we all know that when the bases are strong in terms of education, early childhood education, all the other is improved. But in spite of these evidences, is still low. So the Dubai Declaration is an opportunity to contribute for the advocacy and to boost countries' commitment for more interest and support to early childhood education. And for that, what I intend to do is that, you know, we are all talking about competencies of the 21st centuries. Last month in Paris, during the UNESCO General Conference, it was validated a very important document for the world, which is called Features of Education. And these features of education, there are a lot of areas of new competencies and skills that young people, youth should acquire. You also have the Berlin Declaration on climate change education with a lot of recommendations, etc., etc. So what does all these strategic global documents, what do they mean in terms of curriculum, is the question to which IB will try to respond. Because be it the features of education, the 21st century's competencies, the Berlin Declaration on climate change education, what do they mean in terms of teaching and learning in class? This is the question to which IBE is going to try to respond. And for how to respond to it, you know, we are engaged to really accompany the 193 UNESCO member states in the curriculum policy, education policy and curriculum reforms that they will necessarily undertake after the COVID, because we all know that the impact of COVID on the education system has shown us some limits of our education systems. We need to rethink education, to revamp education, and to transform education. And what this transformation means for curriculum, we are going to accompany the member states for that. And we will make sure the content of the Dubai Declaration is properly captured in this process of accompanying the member state for the transformation of education, for the rethinking of education, for new skills of the youth. So it is for us an opportunity to really advocate for whatever is in the Dubai Declaration to make it happen. Another area of importance for us, you know, we've been I said that we have been working with Dubai Care. Another opportunity that we have, UNESCO has validated, and all these documents I'm mentioning will make sure they are available to the partners. UNESCO has validated what we call UNESCO Global Partnership Strategy for Early Childhood Education with Unicef, etc. All the partners who work, Dubai Care were involved. It's a strategic document for the world, and for us, whatever is in Dubai Care, all the opportunities to talk about this global strategic document are opportunities to value what is in the Dubai Care Declaration. Also, with the Dubai Cares, we have developed series of tools and guidelines for early childhood education in a pilot project we had in Laos, Cameroon, Eswatini, and Rwanda. And we have some guidelines and some tools that are available to accompany the policy formulation, etc. And we are proposing, we are going to hold early next year in Dubai here with Dubai Care a meeting for the capitalization of this project. And we will invite other countries to come and listen. So this also is an opportunity for us to advocate or to promote the Dubai Care Declaration. And finally, what are the opportunities? You know, IBE, we are going to organize next year what we call regional consultations on curriculum challenges and rethinking and transformation of education by region. What it means, draw lessons from COVID and transform education, taking into account the global challenges. What does it mean for curriculum developers? We are going to hold by region some consultation. The one for Asia Pacific will be in Hiroshima, November next year. The one for Africa will be in Zambia in May next year. The one in Arab state we are discussing maybe here in Dubai or in Jeddah, but we are planning to do it. But this big moment of consultation on curriculum are also opportunities for us to advocate and to share the Dubai Declaration so that it is taken on board. So we have a lot of opportunities through which we are really going to promote this declaration.
Are you going to put our declaration into your strategies or not, just because we have Unicef's name on board? But thank God you said it, so I hear a confirmation there, Dr. Guido.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Is it? Okay. So happy to hear all of this enthusiasm. Your Excellency Lubna, we would love to hear from a UAE perspective. What are some of the ways the UAE is contributing to the early childhood development field, and how do you see yourselves aligning with the Dubai Declaration?
Do you hear me? Yeah. Thank you for giving us the chance. I thank Dubai Care for that. The UAE government school sector is now operated by the Emirates School Establishment and overseen by the Ministry of Education. Both entities have the belief that the investment in early childhood and this stage is a very important for the government investments and the government businesses. So since the Dubai Declaration, ESE, which is Emirates School Establishment, and MOE have established special strategy early childhood education or in our continental, in our the 2071 plan, 100-year plan of the importance of our early childhood. The plan focused on different pillars to make sure that we are contributing to the world, and to the Dubai Declaration strategies for early childhood. We believe in the importance of this stage. We have identified 7 pillars or 7 stages that we have to work on, and we've included it even in our strategy, which is the human capital development, looking at the family and the workforce together and aligning them together to attain the possibility of the GDP. The importance of early childhood also investment reflects on the human capital index and the human capital development. In our work, we looked at our curriculum, our knowledge management, and the workforce. All of these were all put in one strategy to see how we will be able to familiarize the families and empower our workforce with highly qualified early childhood education to be with our educators. Also, we've established and also developed many policies related to early childhood and parenting, engaging the parents with us also in developing such policies. The most important thing, what you were just talking about, Doctor, which is the curriculum. We have looked at our curriculum. We had a curriculum that was really the 21st competencies, but now we have 50-year plan. So we've changed our competencies to be aligned with the vision of UAE for the 50 years plan. So we have a special curriculum where we called it براعم المستقبل, which is only looking at from 0 to 8, a platform that is looking at all the aspects of the child: social, mental, cognitive, psychological health, mental health, engaging the parents, engaging the teacher. We've piloted the curriculum in 1 kg, proudly to say that 3 years ago. Then we've expanded in 12 kgs. And during the pandemic in COVID-19, it was expanded to 150 kgs through the UAE, through an ecosystem, a platform, which was open to almost 13,000 students who applied into the platform. The platform, the beauty of the platform is that it engages parents with the child within using the, all the platforms that are available to be engaged with the teacher, with the parent, and also with peers in the classroom. The program has very, very highly demand. Now we are trying to also engage more stakeholders with us. We have Abu Dhabi Child Care Authority. We have also the Sharjah. Most of them are working with us in planning how we will be engaging all of the educators, not only the educators, any early years personnel working in any entity. We're working on also a parenting strategy, where we're working with the Ministry of Development to see how we will be able to launch these programs, to have the parents have license for early years. Parents license, we are trying to work on that. We're working also on early years educators licensing. We launched the program. The licensure is ready, and it's already in the platform. And many of our educators, around 3,000 educators, are now going through the licensure program. In 3 years, we are putting on our demand that all of the educators should have licensure in our schools. We are trying to make sure as much as we can to align with the Dubai Declaration in terms of offering education to most of our kids. We have also the tolerance schools for the non-Emiratis school, where we offer also early childhood education for them. Thank you so much.
Working?
Video.
Hello? Yeah? COVID-19 did not solve our problem. Yeah?
That's AI.
No.
Working now? Yeah?
Yeah.
Whether it's COVID-20, COVID-21, it's not going to make any difference, you know, but can I elaborate a bit? Yeah, I think we have good time, right? When we joined forces with IBE, I remember this was during the days of Irina Bokova, and when we partnered with Unicef, that was the time when Tony Lake was around, and I was just cooking and spicing up how Unicef and Unesco should collaborate on ECD, because they are the two strongest entities on ECD. One is implementation on the ground, and one is on a policy and curricula level. And it's going to be a beauty. Then Irina and Tony came to an end on their second term. And I'm hoping now that journey continues. And both of you, Ted, probably I've never shared this with you, but Ted told me 100% we want to work with IBE. And Dr. Guido has told me the same thing, and I think this is the best platform to put this together.
We'll talk.
But I want to mention one thing. You see, although Unicef and Unesco, they're focused on developing countries, when it comes to the ECD component of IBE specifically, you see, they work with all ministries in the world. It's not only developing countries. And Lubna, what I want to mention is, I believe we also tested the UNESCO schools. Am I right? We did, and we did some pilots in some of the preschooling here. And if you can shed some light later on about this. And I remember Minister Jamila telling me when I was talking about the Dubai Declaration, she goes, "You're doing Dubai Declaration? I'm doing Abu Dhabi Declaration." And I go, "Listen, you didn't start the dialogue. I'm doing Dubai Declaration. Let's leave it at Dubai Declaration." So we did the Dubai Declaration. But then she spoke to me about those schools that the UAE is doing. And I said, but why are we working with UNESCO? And we take their model for pilot. They go, UNESCO works globally, whether it's the UAE or probably Zambia, as you mentioned as an example. We're the same thing. We don't have any model when it comes to that, and testing their models into some of our preschooling centers, because they were centers, I believe, right? And then hopefully we're changing the strategy, and that's where my mind just opened up. And coming back to your question, why? It's because we need unity into this one. It doesn't matter if you're UAE or Zambia or Unicef or Unesco. It doesn't matter, you know. We need to do it all together, you know. We need to start with the early years, and then we move our way forward. Good, we have 17 minutes, so I'm going to shut up.
Thank you, Dr. Tara. I'm hearing a lot of passion from all of the panelists, and I know that we all agree on the value and importance of early childhood development. So this leads me to the final question to all of you. And I'm going to start with you, Dr. Tara, on this one. What is urgently needed to operationalize the Dubai Declaration on ECD, and how can we collectively advance its objectives?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to kick off where I left, you know. I think we need to, like for the UAE, for instance, Lubna was talking, and probably if everyone does its bit, it's going to work. We have to just put a strategy to it, and it's going to work. If Lubna takes a regional lead as the Ministry of Education, speaks to the GCC and the Middle East Ministries of Education, because they are in touch with them, as a start, and convincing them to align their strategies when it comes to ECD to the Dubai Declaration that we devised with UNICEF. And hopefully our backbone pillar will be IBE, backing us on curricula and other activities as well. And then UNICEF, they have their own network globally on that one. UNESCO has their own. UNESCO is a member state country, don't forget, so they can easily, well, I don't know easily, but they can, let's say, easily lobby with their member states to rally on those countries as well through there. So you see, if you think about it, it can easily be done, you know, but we need to sit together and strategize. There are some pockets here and there, a platform here, there on ECD, on ECE, on ECCE, and it goes on, you know. But they're not working properly, you know, they're not clicking, you know, is it an advocacy? Is it an awareness? Is it taking action? And do they need funding, or they just out loud speaking it? You know, it doesn't work. You need to invest money. You need to put the money in country, and those implementing agencies, they need those kind of funding to make it happen. And if everyone shying away from it, and it takes a small entity like us in the world to do it by ourselves, it's not going to work. So it needs unity from a donors level, from a country level, from a UN level, from a global mechanism. The World Bank is working on ECD as well, and as well as some others. And you know what? I believe that ECD will, I don't know if it is, but it can become part of the HDI as an indicator of a country's success, if that can be measured.
Mr. Sheba?
Are we on?
It's COVID-20.
Let me first start by agreeing with Tariq. This is a universal issue. In fact, we're working with the Abu Dhabi Childhood Authority on issues of ECD, exactly in support of the ECD declaration. And let me also continue on the theme that Tariq started, which is the theme of partnership. I think it's going to take us all working together to move forward on ECD and accelerate the declaration into actualization. And it needs to be multisectorial, because it's not just about education. It needs to cut across different sectors, different ministries. Let me though point on 4 specific things that I would propose we do to accelerate support and actualization of the declaration. I mean, firstly, I think we need to renew all of the work that we've done on making the investment case when it comes to ECD. The reality is that in the COVID reality that we're in right now, member states, governments have limited resources, and they're trying to figure out where they need to cut. And we need to make sure that we ask them to stay the course on the most cost-effective investments. And investment in early childhood is among the most cost-effective that a government or a country can make. So that's the first point I would say. The second point I would say is we need ECD to address some of the issues that have come up as a result of COVID. And in particular, I think reach out to parents in terms of positive parenting, but also in terms of family-friendly policies. How can parents both be there for their children, but also have a job? And in many economies, the 2 parents need a job because you can't make ends meet otherwise. So how can we work in terms of family-friendly policies and positive parenting? And the other, I think, emerging issue that comes up is the whole issue of mental health. And looking at mental health, not just as an adolescence issue, but also recognizing that it's also an early childhood issue and something that needs to be addressed. So that's the second issue. The third issue I would say is, I think the quick gain when it comes to the Dubai Declaration, and we've seen it in this region, is around early childhood education, honestly. I think the health ministry can do its part, the social welfare infrastructure can do its part, but early childhood education is massive when it comes to what it can do for ECD. Let me take the example of Morocco. 4 years ago, Morocco had less than 30% coverage when it came to ECD. It's now at over 60%. And there's different cost-effective methodologies that work. In the case of Morocco, they've kind of agreed with the private sector that the private sector will run certain services at cost according to certain standards. Tunisia next door is trying to add a class 0 to its schools so that you've got, in a way, a preschool attached to an existing school with special training and special services. These are the kind of strategies that we need to support, and that would be the third point I would make. Last and not least, I think we need to look at innovative financing for ECD. As I said, in the era of COVID-19, budgets are severely constrained. We're having and we're seeing countries, governments make very hard choices about where they're going to spend their funds. So I think we need to find ways to generate resources from other sources, from the private sector, from innovative financing, which can see this as an investment and can see this as something that can further the country's development, but also their future workforce. Thank you.
Yeah, can you hear me? Okay, good. Thank you very much. I think that how to make sure we promote everything that is in the declaration. Everything at country level starts by what is in the education policy. When a country has his national education policy, where is the place and importance, and how is ECCE mentioned there, is where everything starts. Because all the partners who will come to support the country, they will see what are the priorities that the country has established. And according to the degree of importance given to one priority or another, they will also support the country. So the first thing to do is to make sure we make an advocacy so that ACE has a good place in the education national policies in terms of a priority of the area of intervention. Another important thing to do concerning the advocacy, when you take a Ministry of Education, when you go to some countries, when you see the organigram, in French we say organigram, I think you have the same, okay. The organigram, and you try to see the different responsibilities. You will see directors for curriculum, directors for ACE, you will see chief of unit or section, small. So the importance of the first responsible on ECCE in the ministry is an indicator of an important indicator of how the sub-thematic can be positioned or can get, because when in the ministry, maybe every Monday they have a staff meeting, a senior management meeting, all the directors will be there. But if the director in charge of ECCE, his grade is not director, but chief of section, he will not be in these strategic meetings. It means that at the policy level, he's not strong at all. So this is an advocacy we should undertake when we work with ministers of education, that they have to put more importance on it, because everybody is convinced that everything should start in early childhood education. So we have to see also the importance of it in the organigram. Another thing that is very important that I want to say is that in IBE, we have one of our main acts, which is national capacity building for curriculum. And what we are going to make sure of is whenever we'll intervene in a country for capacity building on curriculum, we'll make sure competent skills to elaborate relevant early childhood programs are also developed at country level. And also that there is a clear policy of teacher training of ECCE, because what happens in the majority of countries, they will just take the normal teachers to come to ECCE. It's a skill that deserves to have his specificity, but it's not the case in many countries. They just think that, okay, anybody can go and become an encadreur of ECCE. And we need to also make an advocacy so that countries know that it's important to give it a specific attention. Lastly, Unesco, we have globally a network, a very strong, in every, like UNICEF, in every region we have regional offices, national offices. For me, when this declaration, we will need to also use our network and make sure the directors or chief of offices in the world, they know about it, and they can also share it to the ministries of education in the countries where they are, because the ministries will all be interested to know what is going on and make sure that can back them. And we will also make sure, I was talking about our regional consultations. Henceforth, and I be working with Dubai Care, Unicef, we'll make sure that whenever we have an important meeting, regional gathering, to have at least a panel or a thematic related to ECCE so that we can address it during these meetings. Merci.
So we get 10% of all what you raise in UNICEF on Dubai Declaration?
Thank you.
Your Excellency, Lubna.
I look at it at a different perspective. So what drives the world now? Economy drives the world. If we prove that when we take care of early childhood, and early childhood development is a very important thing to every country, and it shows that when you invest in these early years, over the years, the GDP and the investment and the budgets that the countries put in their strategies will be becoming more return on investment on early childhood. This will make all the countries, it's not only the Ministry of Education, it's the whole country. All the countries should understand. I'm doing my PhD. I'm looking for research. It's really, I'm sorry to say that, but it's a shame. Not a lot of research has been done in how the Human Capital Index is reflected on the early childhood development. Only Hickman, the Nobel Prize winner, showed the KPIs of how those countries and I don't want to say the names of those countries, made the difference when they really invested in early childhood. So the people who are organizing or leading the countries, they look at economy. If we convince them that if you take care of those kids from early years and put most of your budgets in the early years, not only in education, and everything related to parenting, having policies, having amenities, everything, having education in public schools or private schools available to all kids in the whole world. This is one of the challenges. When we've been looking during COVID, and also during the past few years, when issues occurred in different countries, many traveled through the world. You will see those kids running around without schooling. Some of the countries give them places. My country, we did the same. But if it was a policy, or if it was an agreement through Unesco or the Unicef, that this is the most important age or area that we have to invest, then they will be able to come up with you and understand the importance of early years. Parenting programs, very important. We have to implement, look at, and plan policies for them. As I said, licensure for parents. Here in the UAE, we pay parents to become parents. So within the salaries, there is parenting. So we need to look at these things to see how we can give licensure to parents to be able to nurture or take care of the kids and focus on early childhood. Technology, alhamdulillah, in the UAE, we are the best in technology and AI, but we need also to be able to make it available for the whole world. As you just said, we have met with Saudi Arabia. We're aligning our early childhood strategy with them. We've met with Bahrain, and we're doing the same. Egypt, and we're going around the world doing the same. The idea from our perspective as educators and also maybe parents are the kids, the children, their well-being. It's the most important thing. It's their well-being. If they have the quality of the well-being, what well-being really means, then we will be having the global citizen. This is what we were looking for as educators, but economists, they look at it differently. We need to prove it to them, then they will follow up with us. And that's your job.
Thank you, Your Excellency, and thank you to all the panelists. So the strong themes that we heard coming out of today are collaboration, commitment, funding, and research, and that is what will help us pave the way forward. Unfortunately, we've run out of time, but I really do encourage every single person who's here in this room today who's interested in finding out more about the Dubai Declaration on ECD or collaborating with us moving forward to come see me after the session. Thank you so much.